Roland Osborne, Chrysler Power Magazine. We're at Muscle Car Restorations, and I want to tell you a little story about John Balow and Muscle Car Restorations. And since John's over in the back there, I'm not going to tell the whole story, but I'm going to tell that he is one of the guys that has set the bar. We started Chrysler Power Magazine back in the early 80s, and as we continue to develop the enthusiast market and move towards shows, move towards parts, move towards things that were from the Mopar enthusiasts, sooner or later these cars were going to need some work. You know, first you had crashes, you know, this was in the 70s and the early 80s, you had crash cars. And then you started to have rust that would happen in the rust belt. And once we got rust, and then once we got the enthusiast market going really well, we had to have somebody to fix these cars, whether they were crashed and whether they were rusted out. And I remember it was early in the 90s that I met John Balow the first time, and I think it was at the Mopar Nationals. And I was a judge, and I forget it's a long time ago, okay? But I met John, and we were talking about doing a story about muscle car restorations. And I'd never met him before, but there weren't that many restoration houses around the country. And we actually had done a restoration ourselves of a 68 Charger, and then after that we did a 69 Charger. And we brought the 69 Charger by John's first shop in, I believe it was 93. And in those days, restorations were different. I mean, I say that tongue-in-cheek because when we talk about a restoration, today's restorations are so much higher quality, and the bar is so much higher than even the car as it came out of the factory. So what happened was we met John, we saw his place, we saw his passion, and there weren't that many restoration shops around the country that were doing what John had purposed in his heart to do. And so we, as Chrysler Power Magazine, we had done a number of cars. For example, that green Hemi Cuda that is the B.F. Goodrich poster car. We had done that with one of our very good friends, Marty Algram, in California. And then there was Pete Figueroa. So the West Coast, we were doing a lot of stuff there, but we weren't even close. And I want to say that very honestly, very sincerely. We weren't even close to the level of sophistication that we have today. You know, all the parts are so perfect, they're so pristine. And what we're working on right now, the reason we're here at Muscle Car Restorations this week is we're on our way up to Mopars in the Park. And that's a show that we helped start way back in the 80s, early 80s I think, when it was Dave Sweet was running Midwest Mopar Car Club. And as that show grew, it grew into the huge event that it is today. And for those that are watching this video, this is 2013. And so things have really grown in that time. But as we come by here to do these shows, we stopped at John's, and we're brainstorming the next level. What is the next level for restoration perfection? And we've come up with a little thing. Bruton Smith, many of you know Bruton Smith fame with NASCAR. He had the 3 T's. You know, was his watchword, and the 3 T's were tickets, traffic, and toilets. If you had those 3 elements, you'd have a successful NASCAR race. Well, what we've brainstormed with John is that you've got to have, it's all about parts, all right? Parts first, then it's people, and then it's the product, the final product. So we're going to be doing a series in Chrysler Power Magazine. Let me do a shameless plug for Chrysler Power Magazine. This was actually, it's interesting, this car right here was on the cover of our 1993 issue at the 15th anniversary of the first National Hemi Owners National Meet, and that was just a plain Roadrunner going through a McDonald's. Today he's taking that car and it's a 10-second Hemi. So back to what we're doing here, we're going to have a 3-part series in Chrysler Power, and we're going to talk about parts, and we're going to talk about the care of the parts. So you bring your car in, what kind of care is it, is the car going to get, and the custody of the parts. We've heard horror stories about motors that have been switched, and there's enough restoration places in the country today that everybody, including most car restorations, has been blamed for switching motors, switching parts. They don't do that here. I've known John long enough, and I know his integrity, and I know that each piece that comes in, that comes off of that car, goes into a inventory system that they have, and each piece is pictured, each piece is bagged, each piece has a note made of it. And it's amazing. I am so amazed to watch John in action and watch his crew. I mean, I just went through 7 buildings here, and I told my wife, she's with me this week, and I told her I'm jealous, that these guys that I have sort of discovered early in my career are doing so well, and I should be so thankful, and I should be so grateful that I was able to help them get to where they are today. And what they've done is they've turned around and helped me to help our readers, to help the enthusiast in general, to see where the bar is. And you can play at this level here, and you can have a really nice little get around car, and you can have a really $500,000 car. And John and Muscle Car Restorations goes the entire gamut, but they're pretty much the high level end of the perfection, car of perfection. And some of them are perfect restorations. He said a lot of them don't want that perfect factory type restoration. They want an over restored car where all the paint is on the car and everything is covered, and they're never going to have to paint it, or it's never going to rust again. So I just like to tell all the viewers here today that this is the place that I've seen and I see as have set the bar for the rest of the restorers in the country. And in the magazine, in this magazine, we have a lot of advertisers that are restorers, but when it comes to comparing their cars, they always look at Muscle Car Restorations as the bar, or as something that they want to come as close as they can to the same standards as the cars that come out of Muscle Car Restorations. So, thanks for watching, and enjoy the rest of your day.